Devin Haney defeats Jojo Diaz on a 12-round UD, retaining his WBC World Lightweight title. Now, a few years ago, there were a lot of comparisons between Devin Haney and Floyd Mayweather. And I could see why the comparisons were being made, because his style was very Mayweather-esque. I know he'd spent a lot of time training in the Mayweather gym over several years. And he looked very sharp several years ago in that Mayweather style. Not as sharp as Mayweather, not quite as well coordinated as Mayweather, but I don't want to sound disrespectful, but almost like a poor man's Mayweather, okay? Now, in this fight here against Jojo Diaz, and perhaps even in his previous fight against Linares to a lesser degree, he appears to be moving away from that Mayweather style a bit and developing, I guess, his own style. Or perhaps it was just for this particular fight, I don't know. Because I know that Haney had been kind of riled and annoyed by people saying that he lacks power, particularly after that Linares performance and the Gamboa performance. And so maybe he was trying to prove that he could punch in this fight, holding his feet more, not so side on, looking to really crank and throw heavy shots with the hooks and what have you on the inside. And maybe that's what contributed to his style being a bit different this time around, especially in the early rounds. He was fighting with both hands up. And I know Mayweather would fight with both hands up often, but he would still maintain a certain distance. Whereas with Haney, he had both hands up and it just didn't look like the way Mayweather does it, if that makes sense. So, yeah, Haney back in the days was quick-handed, and I was quite impressed by his speed and sharpness. In this fight here, he did not look to have that same speed and sharpness that he did a few years ago. Now, somebody in one of my Discord servers said that Haney apparently weighed 155 pounds in the ring for this Jojo Diaz fight. If that's true, I don't know if it is true, but if that's true, then he's seriously struggling at the weight. I know in the post-fight interview, he said that he's been finding it difficult to make weight. And if he's putting 20 pounds on between the weigh-in and when he's in the ring, I mean, that's a serious struggle. And that would perhaps explain, or at least go some way to explaining, why he's not quite as sharp or fast as he used to be. Because to me, Haney, especially in the early rounds, looked like he was pushing his punches at times. There was no snap and explosiveness in the shots the way they used to be. So I think it's a combination of perhaps the weight, also the change of style, because some guys find it easier to throw explosive, fast shots when their hands are low. Because when your hands are up, your muscles are tense, your shoulder muscles are tense, right? Your chest muscles are tense, but because you're keeping your hands up. When your hands are low, everything's more relaxed. The shoulders are more relaxed. The arms, the chest, everything is more relaxed. And so from a relaxed position, some guys find they can be much more explosive when letting the shots go. So that also might have contributed to why Haney wasn't quite as fast with his shots as he was a few years ago. Perhaps it was the hands up style and he's more explosive when his hands are a little bit lower. Anyway, whatever the case may be, in the early rounds, Diaz wasn't throwing that many punches. He was allowing Haney to outbox him. And when I say allow, he obviously didn't want to be outboxed, but he just wasn't seeing what he wanted to see in front of him by way of opportunities to be able to let his hands go and do his own thing. So Haney was controlling things early on. I want to say around the 4th or 5th round, Diaz started to step on the gas a little bit. Haney, although he was outboxing Diaz, wasn't landing loads of clean shots. He was going to the body with some nice shots. He got warned several times by the referee to keep him up. Usually it was a straight right hand to the body. And yeah, even though he was outboxing Diaz, he wasn't landing that many clean headshots. It's not like Diaz looked like the Elephant Man by the end of the fight. It wasn't like that at all. And obviously I know that some fighters, for whatever reason, right, don't tend to mark up that much, whereas other fighters do. I was always amazed by people like Brandon Rios, for example, even Marcus Maidana. They'd take so many shots in a fight, and then they'd end up fresh-faced. Look like they hadn't been in a fight, even though they're taking loads of shots. Whereas other guys, don't take that many shots in a fight, but they end up looking really marked up. So, just depends on the nature of somebody's skin, But whatever the case may be, Haney, from what I saw, and I watched the fight in HD, big screen, wasn't landing that many clean ones. But he was just throwing more. A lot of the stuff was being blocked on Diaz's gloves. As the fight progressed, I thought Diaz was landing cleaner shots than Haney was landing a lot of the time, at least headshots, landing cleaner headshots. And I do think that Diaz won several rounds in this fight. Now, I'm not trying to argue that Diaz got robbed or anything like that. No, I thought Haney won it. I didn't score it round by round, but for me, Haney winning by 3 rounds or 4 rounds would have been okay. I thought that the scores of 117, 111 twice were too wide. I don't think it was that kind of fight for Devin Haney at all. I think that 116, 112 is about, I would say that's about right. That's about the maximum I would have it is 116, 112. I would say around closer than that would be more realistic. I do think that the zone commentators were biased in terms of acting like Jojo Diaz was doing nothing and landing nothing, and Haney was landing everything. I mean, there were rounds, literally, which to me, Diaz won. And the DAZN commentary team was saying, oh, Haney won that clearly. Diaz didn't do anything. And I'm like, what? Haney didn't even land any clean shots. Everything he threw was blocked. And then Diaz actually did get through with some clean left hooks and clean shots. So it was one of those fights where one guy is out throwing the other guy. Yes, hitting gloves and shoulders and stuff like that. But his opponent is managing to land 1 or 2 clean ones on him per round. So do you go with the guy whose shots are being blocked or partially blocked? They're kind of getting through around the side, but, just grazing the side of the head and being partially blocked by the gloves. Do you go for that? The guy who's throwing more of those or landing more of those kind of shots where the punch quality isn't as good? Or do you go for the other guy who isn't throwing or landing as many, but when he does land, it's a higher punch quality? It was that kind of thing. So again, I've got no issue with the result. I think it was the right result. I don't think that you can really make a strong case for Jojo Diaz being the winner here, but I do think it was closer than the judges had it in terms of 117, 111. I think 116, 112 is about the maximum I would go. Haney was buzzed late on in the fight. And again, people are going to question his chin because Jojo Diaz is a smaller fighter coming up in weight. People are going to say this is the second time in a row now where Devin Haney has been buzzed. He wasn't as badly hurt as he was against Linares. Linares, of course, is noted as being somebody that carries power. Jojo Diaz isn't known for his power. So some people might say that's a bit more concerning. Again, wasn't hurt to the same degree as he was against Linares, but was still noticeably buzzed a couple times here against Jojo Diaz. And he was getting caught with shots, clean shots, which are going to make people question his defense a little bit as well. I do think that he needs to get this chip off his shoulder with regards to his punching power. Sometimes it's better to just feed in to what they believe about you. Oh, they think I'm not a puncher. Okay. I'll act like I'm not a puncher. I'll fight like I'm not a puncher. I'll completely go slick and not even try and stand with these guys. Do my Floyd Mayweather impression, stay behind the shoulder roll, and then when they're not expecting it, when they're in a comfort zone, bam, then I'll hit them. Then I'll catch them out the blue with a shot. Whereas when you go in there and you try and hold your feet the way that Devin Haney did in the early rounds against Diaz and, most of the way through the fight, guys are expecting you to try and hit them hard. Do you know what I mean? The element of surprise is lost. So I think that Haney should just stick to being completely slick and forget about trying to prove that he's this big puncher to anybody. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. As far as where he goes next, who he fights next, again, I think he's probably best moving up in weight. Josh Taylor's there, 140 pounds. I know that there's a bunch of money fights at 135 with the likes of Ryan Garcia. Of course, there's the undisputed fight against George Kambosos. There's the Tank Davis fight. But if you're going to fight those guys, you're going to need to be an awful lot better than you were here against Jojo Diaz. Way better, in my estimation, if he's going to beat those guys. I'm not saying he can't be competitive. I'm not saying he's got no chance. But for me, he just looks sluggish compared to how he used to be. Doesn't have that same sharpness. Is getting tagged more than you'd like to see him get tagged. I can understand why he would stay at 135 to try and get some big fights in. But in terms of being the best that he can be, the best version of himself, and performing to the best of his ability, that might lie at 140 rather than at 135. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of the performance against Jojo Diaz, the slight change up in style. Do you, like me, sense that he's not quite as sharp as he used to be? Is that down to the weight cut? If he's cutting 20 pounds, weighing in at 135 and coming in at 155? Let me know what you guys think about all that in the comments below.